Hey, crew. It's Pitt, and I am back with some esoterica. Today, we are going to be beginning a new journey into a new document. I'm going to try to get through a lot of different books. Some of them are going to be normal, and some of them are going to be controversial. And this is one of those books that might be a little bit controversial, so we're going to take just a minute here at the beginning and talk about a couple of things. I hold some unconventional beliefs. If you are unaware of what that means, it is highly recommended that you watch this playlist. I understand it is very long, but it explains all of the reasons for what I'm about to tell you now. I do not believe that there is a chosen people. I believe that God created everybody. And so he doesn't play favorites in a this race is my race of people at all. That's going to set some people off. But I give my reasons in that playlist. I also do not believe that there was ever a sacrifice required for you to be forgiven from sin. I find that just a little bit ridiculous, and that's going to set off a different group of people. But that, again, is explained in excruciating detail in the playlist. I do not come by my beliefs lightly. I do not disperse them lightly. I am very much aware that I am responsible for the knowledge that I impart, and I am freely imparting knowledge that has previously been hidden from people. Some of that may come out in this particular reading of the books, and that will probably attract a good number of people. But I have another playlist. It's called Infinite Integrations, where I deal with some of the more energetic manipulation type of things, because I do believe that energy is freely available for you to manipulate, and that the only thing required for you to do so is discipline and the following of the eight laws of creation. If you do not follow the eight laws of creation and you ever attempt to impart or to utilize any of the knowledge that I am imparting to you, it is on you. I am telling you now so that you can go back and look that the eight laws of creation are very real. They have very real consequences. And while all of the things that I will discuss are freely available to you, there is no special secrets other than taking the time to pray, fast, and meditate on the subjects. If you are not correct in the eight laws of creation, it will come back to get you. And that is not on me, even though I am giving you the knowledge, because I am also at the same time giving you the knowledge to keep yourself from falling into the cracks. Now, that being said, let's talk about the Book of Enoch. This is a book that is highly contested for some reason. It is most likely that at least the first book of Enoch is actually the one that is referenced in the Bible several times. We get more references to Enoch than we get details about Enoch. He was a man who walked righteously with God and was taken away without ever dying, and those are about all we get from it. He was pulled away to somewhere else. He was taken. There was a light. We're going to get into more details about Enoch and what he actually stood in. We're going to go through a freely available PDF. I will provide the link. It is always going to be linked below every chance that I get, so that you can go back and read for yourself, to discern for yourself, to see if the things that I am going to discuss are actually the things that seem to be implied by the book, whether or not the things that are actually written in the book are the things that you have heard about the book. All of these things are for you to discern. I am dispensing the energy, right? I am investing the energy into the knowledge, because I believe that the more people that are knowledgeable about the more things, the better off we all are as human beings. So, all of that said, I think I covered all the bases. If I did not, hit me in the comments down below and let me know, and I will address them in the next one. But now we're going to read through uh, the book of Enoch. I don't know where we're going to stop, but we will stop at some point. I doubt this is going to be a one and done. Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch. The words of the blessing of Enoch. Herewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the days of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. I just remembered did not indeed, in fact, touch on all of the things. So let's talk about the other thing real quick, and I will reread that in a second. I also fully do not believe that there is coming a time that there is a rapture where people will be pulled from the earth prior to the tribulation or anything of that nature. I do believe that there is a bottleneck. That's what I call it. A bottleneck where all of our fates come together for a while before dispersing again. And that this particular bottleneck has been and is going to be repeated throughout history around every 6,000 years. Well, 12,000 years on the larger scale, 6,000 years on the smaller scale. Every 12,000 years, there is a fire event. And every 6,000 years later, there is a flood event. And then it's a repeating pattern every 6,000 years. Fire, flood, fire, flood, fire, flood. We had a flood roughly 6,000 years ago. We are due for the fire probably in about 14 to 20 years. It roughly is looking like 2040. That is not me putting a date on things. Other people can do that, but I have not gained enough knowledge to nearly be ready to put a date on things. I am looking for clearly definable signs of the times. It is not wars. It is not earthquakes. It is not tribulations upon the earth. Those will and have been from the beginning of time until this reset, and on the other side of that, they will be again. What I am looking for is a clearly definable sign in the sky. It will be clearly seen by everyone. There will be no doubt whatsoever that it is something that is not supposed to be there, and it will cause fear and trembling across the earth. That will be the abomination of desolation. That is where it should not be. It will be clearly visible. You will not be wondering, I wonder if that could. You'll be like, oh, that's what they're talking about. That's what I'm looking for. Now, that may be the beasts. That may be a whole myriad of things that we covered in that playlist. But I do believe it is coming. I believe that the flood was the last time and that the Eden event was 6,000 years prior to that. I understand that that is a wonky timeline for people who are strict creationalists. If you're just a strict creationalist, you are definitely listening to the wrong guy. Right? I believe that God created everyone. I do. I don't believe that we evolved from monkeys or from bacteria. I do not. I do believe that there may have been some interference by outside entities. I fully believe in entities. I do believe that there is both entities working for the good and the detriment of mankind. I believe that when Moses or when Abram was told to go sacrifice his son, that was somebody working for the detriment, and when he was stopped and given a ram, that was somebody working for the good. That was two separate entities. There are several instances of that exact same thing happening in the Bible, and I cover that in excruciating detail in the Bible study so that I don't have to do that elsewhere. The Bible study is going to give a very good foundation on what I believe to other people, but the sign is going to be clearly definable. Everybody will know it. Now, back to Enoch. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the days of tribulation. That's a little bit loud. Huh? All right. When all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And Enoch, a righteous man whose eyes were opened by God, took up his parable and said, I saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angel showed me, and from them I heard everything. And from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is to come. Concerning the elect, I said, and took up my parable concerning them. The holy great one will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and will appear in the strength of his might from the heavens of heavens. My voice is going to go in and out. I'm sorry if that's a little bit distracting. It's nothing I can really do about it right now. God has taken a thing out of here, and this is a vocal therapy for me. So the reading should all be right here. That will not be possible, but the more I can stay right here, the stronger this is going to get. And the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and will appear in his strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them until the ends of the earth. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish. And there shall be a judgment upon all. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect. And mercy shall be upon them, and they shall all belong to God, and they shall be prospered, and they shall all be blessed, and he will help them all, and a light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness, which they have ungodly committed, and of all the hard things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Okay, so what do we get here? This is the introduction of Enoch. He is saying, hey, this is me, this is who I am. It's telling you that he was a righteous man and that he had a vision because his eyes were opened by God, and took up his parable, which is a story, right? It is a story with a meaning, and said, I saw a vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me, and from them I heard everything. Now, this is separate from the watchers, right? It could be referring to the same group. The angels and the watchers could be the same thing. They could be completely different. And from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one. Now, this is, I believe, us. This generation, I do believe within the next 20 years. I may die today. God could take me before I even get this video uploaded. But barring that, I will probably be alive during this reset. I will be getting on in my years. It's going to be 20 years from now. I will be over 60. So it ain't like I'm running fast when I run, but we are told to run. If you read through the book in that Bible study, if you read through that book, you will see that you are told to run. You're not told to fight. You're not told to go. Like, you're told to take your butt, haul it to the wilderness. It will probably not be a good idea to run to the mountains. That is from a separate playlist. We went through the works of Plato, where they describe what happens here, what we're about to read through again. We just read through and we're about to hit again. Plato talks about it too in Timaeus and Critias. And what is described there is an alternating destruction cycle of hot and cold, is what I like to call it. I believe what is happening is we're traveling through space. Let's go ahead and talk about it. I'll go ahead and click it over. I believe that we're traveling through space, right? We're on our little rock and we're going through space, and we're orbiting around the sun, probably. And as we're orbiting around the sun is also orbiting around something. Now, what that something is, we don't know. It's the galactic center, but it may be an object out there. Whatever it is, the sun is moving through space in relation to. Now, most things are also moving in that direction, but as we move, it is not in a straight line. Like, the sun's not going like this, and then we're going around it in a straight line. It's kind of in a wave pattern. We go up, we go down as we move through space. It's part of the effects of the electromagnetic harmonics that is everything. And so, as we're traveling through space and we're making this wave pattern, we hit the high and the low points, right? I believe the sign that we see in the sky, this clearly definable sign, is the approach of the high or the low point, whichever it happens to be. And that on one side of it, we get an arc discharge, which is an electromagnetic plasma discharge, probably measured in miles, right? What is that? It's like a lightning bolt that is sustained for an extended period of time. Or an even better way to look at it is as if it were a welding rod, right? And in order for that to happen, there's a grounding that happens from the circuit to the sun to us, right? And that it is going to change the scope and the size and everything about the earth. It did it the last time, it's going to do it again. Part of that process will be that the earth will rotate 90 degrees on an axis. That axis probably runs through the pyramids, but I cannot say for certain that that's what it is. But that's probably the pivot point. That's probably why the pyramid is there. I cannot say that for certainty, right? But that is a very likely probability. if we get to the top and we get this arc discharge, that's the hot event. And then if we get to the bottom, we ground out. And the grounding out is basically we get flooded. That's how it happens, right? What happens with water, it neutralizes the electrical source. And so I think that we're approaching the part where we're going to get the energetic charge. We're going to get the fire that's going to shape mountains. And electricity tends to conduct through ferrous materials fairly well. A lot of the mountains are made of ferrous materials. And there is significant reason to believe that some of the mountains that we have, not all of them, but some of them, even a significant number of them, have been formed by this plasmic discharge. Part of the shaping of the earth is from the flood, and part of it is from the last time we got the electrical jolt. I believe that was the Eden event, when the fiery sword came and separated them from the plenty of Eden, changed the whole world. It was disastrous, but not everybody died. It's going to be the same thing here. The same thing happened with the flood. I know that a certain group of peoples like to believe that there was only one family that survived the flood. I do not believe that. I believe that there were several arcs of several different natures. They are recorded by several different peoples. And so I do believe that there was a flood. I do believe that that is within human memory, just very distantly, and that the fire event on the other side is not even really remembered, right? We remember it in Plato, and that's about it. So we are probably approaching the fire event. Most people will not survive that event. It will be marked by great terrestrial changes when the earth turns. Simply that act alone, even if there is no plasmic discharge, the turning of the earth alone, taking out the waters, right? When the earth is spinning, we're no longer a sphere. We kind of oblongate, right? We turn a little bit like an egg. And the North Pole and the South Pole kind of squish together. Well, when we turn, that's going to happen again. The North Pole and the South Pole are going to squish together. The rotation is going to kick back in the same way it is, because it is electromagnetics that is making that happen. And so as that happens, the earth is going to compress like this. And so great mountain ranges are going to shrink. Like, that is the physics, in my estimation, of what's going to happen, is isostatic pressure release. And the centrifugal force is going to change our actual geography. Outside of the plasmic discharge, which I believe is going to happen, it is going to cause all kinds of distress. This is probably going to be accompanied by great meteoric events, right? Large chunks of something falling from the sky, probably the remnants of a rogue planet at some point. And it's going to cause great distress, right? Pieces are going to fall into the ocean, or it's going to destroy. We're going to call it wormwood. It's going to make everything better. And then another piece is going to fall on one of the continents, probably the one I'm sitting on. It's going to destroy a lot of other things. These are my interpretations of what is recorded in Daniel, in Ezekiel, in Isaiah, and in the book of Revelation. And it is also here, which is where we're going to get back to this. I know I'm taking the long road, because we need to talk about the things. We need to discuss the things as we go along. So if this is not your style of study, this is not going to be your style of study. And then concerning the elect, I said, the great Holy One will come from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth. Now, this is where I differ. I don't believe that God can manifest inside of himself. I don't think that he has the need. I believe that he is outside of our current reality. Some people call it a simulation. I don't have a problem with that. Maybe God's running a computer program. Some people say it's a figment of his imagination. I don't have a problem with that. We could be a figment of his imagination. Regardless of the mechanics of how it happens, I do not believe that God himself will ever be incarnate on the earth. And if anyone is telling you that they are, they're wrong. You are a very tiny piece of God, but you are not ever God himself. God is all things. He is me. He is you. He is the space between me and you, and He is the space between me and you. He is anything you can put your hands on and all of the things that you can't. He has every conception that you have ever had and every action that you have ever taken. All of it is God. I believe that there is a multiverse because there are many experiences that God is going to get, and that you are the main player in your timeline so that you can guide your ship where He wants it to go. But if you don't make that choice, there is another alternative for that. You don't have to agree with that. I am fine with that. That is what I believe. And so when we talk about God Himself treading upon the earth or God Himself judging the earth, I take that as a metaphysical thing and never a physical one. If you have a problem with that, again, this is not going to be the reading for you. But I think that what is happening here is the physical sign that we see in the sky, right? The elect, the great Holy One will come forth from His dwelling. Now, His dwelling is the heavens. And the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and will appear in the strength of His might from the heaven of heavens. Now, if you did not go back and watch the Bible study, you're not going to understand this. But the ark that they carried was what? It was an electrical discharge device, right? The might of God that was carried in the ark was electricity. The tool that they used to defeat their enemies with the ark was electricity. It was plasma. I believe that this is the same thing. The might of God will be coming down, and we will see it, and it will strike the mountains. We're told not to go to the mountains. They don't survive in the hot events. They survive in the wet events. So if it was going to flood, you might want to go there. When we get on the other side and you survive and I survive, we tell our descendants next time, run to the mountains. But that's what I believe is this. This is God's power manifesting is going to be this plasmic discharge. And when I say a plasmic discharge, I'm not talking about a little lightning strike. This is going to be a sustained event of significant magnitude. It will be larger than several cities. There is an entire possibility that it will be attracted to cities. There is electricity, and ground seeks ground. There's a very likely possibility that what's going to happen is the mountains and the cities will both be stricken. That's why you're told to run to the wilderness. They're not told to run to Mount Sinai in the Bible. They're told to run to the wilderness of the Negev and then come back to Sinai afterwards. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. And so all shall be smitten from fear again. When I tell you that I believe that the sign will be clearly visible, I mean that. And people will start killing people because they believe that the judgment is coming. That is foretold, and I do believe that is real. And what is coming, and everybody's going to realize it at the same time and get upset. Right? All shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake. Now, this is an interesting term. We're going to get more into that as we go further along, so I'm going to reserve the judgment of who the watchers are until we get further along into the study. But it's probably not the angels. And great fear and trembling shall seize them until the ends of the earth. I believe that. I think when people see this, they're going to be like, oh, and great fear and trembling is going to happen. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, torn apart, and all that is upon earth shall perish, and there shall be a judgment upon all. That is possible. It is entirely possible that nobody survives this. It is highly unlikely that nobody survives this. But it will probably destroy great sections of the earth, right? There will be great topographical changes. There will be climatic changes. Many people are going to die. It doesn't have to be you, but it will probably be you. Doesn't have to be me, but it will probably be me. I'm making the plans as though I will survive. I'm wherever God brings me to settle because I am in flux of moving, right? I'm wanting to move. I don't know where yet. So wherever that is, I'm going to be setting up fruit trees first thing. I'm going to be preparing sustainable agriculture and setting up tools and as though it was going to be the end of the earth and my farm would be the only one to survive. I want to have as much possibility for everyone around to survive at my place. That is my goal. Because I believe that almost everybody will pass. Not everybody, I don't believe that. But I believe there will be something. It will be terrible. With the righteous, he will make peace, and with the protect the elect. Some people are going to survive. Mercy shall be upon them. And behold, he comes with his 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all. And that is possible too. He could come down quite literally and like be on the earth with a sword. That is possible. I do not discount it. I don't believe it. I don't think it is probable, but that does not mean it is impossible. Chapter 2. The Creation. Observe ye everything that takes place in the heavens, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in heaven, how they all rise and set in order, each in its season, and transgress not against their appointed order. Behold ye the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it from first to last, how steadfast they are, how none of the things upon the earth change, but all the works of God appear to you. Behold the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie upon it. Observe and see how in the winter all the trees seem as though they had withered and shed all their leaves, except 14 trees which do not lose their foliage, but retain the old foliage from 2 to 3 years, till the new comes. I did not bring my water in here. And again, observe ye the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth, over against it. And ye shall seek shade and shelter by reason of the heat of the sun. And the earth also burns with growing heat. And so you cannot tread on the earth or on a rock by reason of its heat. Observe ye how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and bear fruit. Wherefore give ye heed, and know with all regard to all his works, and recognize how he that liveth hath forever made them so. And all his works go on thus from year to year forever, and all the tasks which they accomplish for him, and their tasks change not, but according as God hath ordained, so it is done. And behold how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and change not their tasks from his commandments. But ye have not been steadfast, nor done the commandments of the Lord, but ye have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with your impure mouth against his greatness. O ye hard-hearted, ye shall find no peace. Therefore shall you execrate your days, and the years of your life shall perish, and the years of your destruction shall be multiplied in eternal abomination, and you shall find no mercy. In those days you shall make your names an eternal abomination unto all the righteous, and by you shall all who curse curse. All the sinners and godless shall imprecate by you, and for you, the godless there, shall be a curse. And all the righteous shall rejoice, and there shall be forgiveness of sins, and every mercy and peace and forbearance. There shall be a salvation unto them, a goodly light. And for all you sinners there shall be no salvation, but on you all shall abide the curse of the beast. But for the elect there shall be light and joy and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. And then there shall be bestowed upon the elect wisdom and they shall all live and never again sin, either through ungodliness or through pride. But they who are wise shall be humble, and they shall not again transgress, nor shall they sin all the days of their life, nor shall they die of anger or wrath, but they shall complete the number of the days of their life. And their lives shall be increased in peace, and the years of their joy shall be multiplied in eternal gladness and peace all the days of their life. There's not a whole lot for me to add to this particular part, right? What we basically dealt with there is just an admonishment to do good, to seek God, and to be who He has placed you to be. Don't you see that the entirety of the earth does as it is instructed to do? Why do you not, mere human? That is the gist of that. The fallen angels, chapter 3. I'm going to grab some water real quick. Chapter 3. Fallen Angels. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Simjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200, who descended from the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samlazaz, their leader; Araklaba, Ramil, Kokabel, Tamlel, Ramlel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakiajah, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zaklel, Samsapil, Satrel, Turel, Jomjel, Sariel. These are their chiefs of tens. I know, I butchered the names. It is what it is. I'm not from there. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go into them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them, and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts, and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh, and drink the blood. And then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Amoros the resolving of enchantments. Barak-Kijal taught astrology, and Kokobel the constellations. Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds. Adarkiel the signs of the earth. Samsiel the signs of the sun, and Serial the course of the moon. And as man perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. All right, so let's go over this one, because now we're talking about entities. Now we're talking about the things that I talk about all the time. And so it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. Now, this is interesting because this is implying others, right? It's implying not only others, but biologically compatible others. There is another story that we're not going to get into great detail here, but we will cover at another point, where this is also talked about, right? This is also that men were created to be workers, and that they multiplied through the exclusive use of genetic material in a lab by creatures from another planet. Now, whether or not these are the same peoples is not really the subject of debate right here, right? It is highly probable that this is a different variation of telling the same story. This is assuming that God created, we have had the garden, and we are expelled from the garden, right? And they go forth and they multiply. So, this is prior to the flood. This is the time period between the flood and creation, the expulsion from Eden. Now, whether or not these are actual creatures from outer planetary, right, somewhere else, I don't like saying outer space, but from the waters above, that's a good one. They could have been exploring here from the waters above and crash landed and were unable to go back. It is described that their getting back relies upon the position in space which we are currently in. And if you have been tagging along, you know that we move through space in a wave pattern, and that means then we're at either the high or the low point. They have the better probability of returning to their place, and if not, they are here for another cycle. I believe that is the most probable, that it is possible that they are offward, but that the paths of our worlds coincide at some point, and when it's here, they can jump between because they have the technology, but when it's here, they can't because it's too far. That is pure speculation. I am fully aware of that, but I can believe what I want to. You don't have to. Semjaza, who was their leader. Now, this, I guess, is Lucifer or Satan or however it's worded in whichever version of whatever you happen to be reading. But I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have pay the penalty of a great sin. I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that the deed is paying the penalty, right? That you will not also agree to pay the penalty and it will fall on me. Now, let's suppose that these are shipwrecked astronauts, right? They came from the waters above and they are here now. Their ship has wrecked. They are no longer able to navigate those waters. They are stuck in these. And so, if it's all men, Men get horny. Okay, I get you. It doesn't appear at first that they're doing anything forcefully. It's just as if they had arrived among natives. I know some people are going to take great exception to that, but if you're that sensitive, this is not the place for you either. And then they said that they're going to swear an oath and all bind themselves not to abandon this plan. And there were 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And then we are given the names of their leaders. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 19 of them. That's interesting. These are the chief of tens. So that would be 190. So we're missing someone. But regardless, or I missed someone, it's possible. Regardless, who descended in the days of Jared. Now, is this the biblical Jared? Because that was like after the temple, right? I don't know. I would have to go back and reread it, but they descended upon the Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they swore themselves and bound themselves on it. And then they took unto themselves wives, each chose for himself one, and began to go unto them and to defile themselves with them. And then they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots and made them acquainted with plants. And this again kicks back to the other story where they are given knowledge. This kicks back to Prometheus giving fire. This kicks back to Pandora's box. This kicks back to several different stories along the same lines across all of history. Someone else, some other, gave the knowledge of to us as humans. Now, it is entirely possible that either me or you are descended from this, right? If it is true and if it is a real thing, then it is entirely possible that the bloodlines are still here today. The knowledge is still here. The knowledge did not get disappeared, so they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots and made them acquainted with plants. Charms and enchantments. Now, charms are physical items that you carry about yourself, right? It is the cross, that's a charm. The Star of David, it's a different charm. The things that people ride, the Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, or however you pronounce it, that's a charm. These things are symbols, symbology, and are invested with power through your belief in them and through that alone. No object holds power in and of itself, but you can invest the energy in it. Charms and enchantments are real things. Enchantments you cannot put your hands on. That's a big stipulation right there. Charms are physical things that you are investing physical energy into. Generally a pretty terrible idea, by the way. And enchantments are energetic investments of the same nature, but are not in a physical manner. And that is only a slightly less terrible idea. The cutting of roots and made them acquainted with plants. That's talking about learning cultivation, learning how to cut plants, like take clones, make another from the old, to take seeds and to plant them, right? And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells. Unit of measurement that we will not get back. It could be a fingertip, right? It could be 3,000 fingertips. It could be 12 foot tall. It could be 20 foot tall. It could be 200 foot tall. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. This, again, ties back to the stories of the Titans, right? Back to mythology. After men have given the knowledge, they have monsters to fight. That is a recurring theme as well in several different ethnicities across the globe. As well as the devouring mankind. And then they begin to sin against birds and beasts, reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Cannibalism among the giants. And then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Now, if they are already consuming in great excess the fruits of the labors of men. This is pre-flood. Men aren't allowed to eat things. Did you know that? Before Noah, men didn't have meat. Go back and read your Bible. And so, sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. They were eating the things that men were not allowed to. Men only ate the plants, right? Now, that's a whole different argument we're not going to get into. But and then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, the bracelets, the ornaments, and the use of antimony, with the beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. And so, again, the nature of man is sin, right? You are put here specifically for the point of resisting the temptations. That does not mean that you can never drink. It does not mean that you can never cuss. It does not mean that you can never have sex. It does not mean that anything really is denied you that would be beneficial to you. You are not to drink to excess. You are not to fornicate with multiple partners. You are not to do these things because they are bad for you. Not because it is a sin to drink, but because if you're drinking all the time, you will destroy yourself, and that is a sin. Or you will place that drink on a pedestal, and it will become a god to you. It will become an idol to you, and that also is a sin. It's not about the alcohol, it's about the mentality involved with the alcohol. If you're killing yourself with alcohol, you are committing a sin. If you're killing yourself with whatever substance you are using, you are committing a sin. It's not like a moral thing. Morals are subjective. It is an outside of, like, God put you here for the betterment of you and those around you. That is the purpose of life, to make life better for everyone, to take the challenge and to thrive with it. We are told to go forth, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth and be stewards thereof. Right? Go out and find your struggle and struggle with it. And if it is raising a farm, it's raising a farm. Do it with all of your might. If it is being an accountant, then be an accountant, but do it with all of your might. Right? Do it to the best of your ability. Be the example to your children. Raise them up in the way they should go. That is godliness. The distractions that are given to men deprive you of godliness. The swords and knives and shields, the breastplates, the bracelets and ornaments, the stones and the antimony and the shade on your face. All of these things bring you away from God because you place your faith in them instead of where it should be, which is God. Giving yourself over to the passions of flesh or sin in the manner that it is becoming an idol to you. The swords and knives and shields are useful tools when you are defending yourself, but you're not to go out and shed men's blood, right? You're not to go out and seek violence anywhere. You are instead to love your neighbor as yourself, or as you would God, because they are a reflection of God. And so the godlessness that arrives is the nature of man. Right? This is after Eden, before the flood. Samjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Amoros, the resolving of enchantments. So one teaches you how to do them, and then the other one teaches you how to undo them. But we've already learned the cutting of roots, right? We got that from Samwise, I think. Maybe this is just a reiteration. Samjaza taught enchantments and roots, and Amoros the resolving of enchantments. Barakijal taught astrology, and Kokabel the constellations. Well, astrology and constellations have a good bit to do with each other in these times, right? But they're not the same thing. Right? Astrology is the study of the planets and their movements. It is the study of where we are in space and how we go. The constellations are putting upon the fixed points in space, things that aren't necessarily there, but are there for a reason. They tell us stories for a reason. They're there to help you plant. We have forgotten that in our hubris of technology, right? We remember by the calendar. We don't have to look at the stars. But once upon a time, you didn't know when to plant your food unless you knew the stars, and not just casually, but on an intimate level. You knew the constellations and where they should be every single month because that was your entertainment. That was how you learned about the world. They told you these stories as they appeared, and these stories were relevant to the time you were in. So you would get springtime stories about planting and rebirth in the springtime, and you would get wintertime stories about death and burial in the wintertime. And they were told to you through these constellations in the sky so that you could keep track of time. And then we got knowledge of the clouds, right? So we're learning meteorology. Eriquiel, the signs of the earth, and Shamsiel, the signs of the sun, and Siriel, the course of the moon. And men perished. They cried, and their cry went up to heaven. So as they're learning the things they need to learn in order to survive, they start crying because they're getting eaten. And that's where we're going to wrap this one up. We will come back with chapter 4 on the next one, but we've covered a lot of ground today. I want to give you a chance to digest it just a little bit. I know that I hold some unconventional beliefs. I know that many people are going to be quite offended by the things I have said. It is not intentional, but it is not apologized for. I am merely pointing out my beliefs. You don't have to believe them. I know that there are many of you who do. I know that there are many of you who are searching for more than what we have been given. The things I grew up in the Baptist and the Pentecostal church, the Bible study has shown me something different than everything I thought I knew. I'm looking at Enoch with the new eyes of having gone through that. And so I'm seeing these things a little bit differently, but I'm also looking at it through the view of I do believe in the disaster cycle. I do believe that there is a trackable pattern of things that happen. The big ones are at 12 and 6,000 years, but there might be smaller ones in between. There may be a pattern on how to tell when a war is about to break out. That is entirely possible. I don't like getting into complicated maths because if you're having to get too complicated in your math, then the ability for everyone to discern it is gone. Anything that is supposed to be from God, everybody will be able to do. Now, that is going to be entirely dependent upon your level of devotion. And that doesn't mean, oh my God, you are so wonderful, I love you. What that means is your ability to diligently do the things that you know God is telling you to do. Whether that is exercising or whether that is giving up a job, whether that is taking a whole different job, whether it is something completely out of the scope of my understanding. If God is telling you to do something, if it's give up this vice or talk to this person, your willingness to do those things will play great part in your ability to receive the benefits of the things. That goes for prayer, fasting, and meditation. If you are not spending time talking to the Almighty through prayer, fasting, not every day, not out loud, but when you feel it is necessary and at certain regular periods of time, so that you can be so that you can receive from Him the message that is intended for you, because that is the point of fasting. It is not to deny you of a thing, but instead so that you will be more receptive to the knowledge being imparted to you. Or meditating, spending time in your mind in silence, trying to listen for the voice telling you what to do. If you don't invest in those things, you will receive nothing. But, sorry, If you do those things, if you pray, fast, and meditate, if you seek the face of the Lord and truly try to discern His ways and to live what He is wanting you to do, body, mind, and soul, the Trinity, if you are doing these things, then the truth will be revealed to you in its full and total form, with no special requirements of anyone or anything having to die. Your sins will have to be sacrificed. That is the only sacrifice that was ever required for forgiveness of sin. But outside of that, you will receive knowledge if you seek it. Make sure that you are following the rules of creation. Make sure that you are properly aligned before you attempt those things. But they are freely available to you, even if you don't. Hopefully, I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. We will be getting much more into the Book of Enoch. I will be stepping on quite a few more toes, but hopefully, it's not too many, and hopefully, you're sticking around. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit Steak. Peace.